Hello and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB. Today's quest is 750 gold for 30 red or green spells. I've built a little deck that I think is right for the job. You may also notice I cleaned up the account a little with all those decks I don't play. Just sticking to the decks I'm most focused on and my questing deck for the day. I know usually I build on stream, but at this on video, on air, on camera. But at this point, I've done it a number of times. If you want a reference of how to build decks and what I look for, you definitely have enough of those. So to keep the videos with more gameplay and less non-gameplay, we're just gonna go straight to the games after we talk about the deck for a second. So it's a ramp deck. We want to play big monsters and we want to play them quickly. We're not focused so much on cheap burn spells like Shock and Lightning Strike as playing big creatures and smashing face. So we have Llanowar Elves and Druid of the Cowl. We have Branchwalker and Jadelight Ranger to help us our lands. Rejuvenator also finds lands. Gift of Paradise is a ramp spell. Circuitous Route is a ramp spell. I don't know if I need all this ramp, but better safe than sorry. I would prefer to have more finishers, but I just don't like most of the finishers that I have, and so many of the finishers are rare and mythic. I'm going to stick with this. We've got the mighty Charging Monstrosaur as a 4-of to go with Gigantosaurus and all these big fat beasts. But the other finishers that hide over here somewhere, they kind of hide in the corner, are Banefire and Fight with Fire. Having enough mana to cast a Mega Banefire or a Kicked Fight with Fire is the other thing that the deck needs to be doing really well. Alright, win or lose, let's go cast those spells. And yeah, play. Just want to play. Just want to play. I have the other game modes open because I just recorded a best of 3 video. As a young CGB competitor, unless you really love best of 3 Magic and have sideboarding experience, or you're just eager to get into it, I would recommend sticking to casual play and best of 1 until we have a chance to talk more about sideboarding. And as an amazing segue, we are only $3 away on Patreon of our stretch goal of creating limited event videos. So twice a week I would make a video, one video for draft and one video for sealed, if we get $3 more pledged on Patreon. If you're willing and helping out with that, go ahead and check out the link in the description. We're going to play the other Druid of the Cowl, not the Fight with Fire. We're going to try to save this for a very high-end play, but we're not going to attack because the Harpooner would eat our Druid of the Cowl. But what that has to do with sideboarding is eventually one of the goals on Patreon will be to create videos once or twice a week focusing on sideboards, sideboarding, and sideboard guides. So eventually we'll get to that level as well. But right now, if you want to see draft and you want to see sealed, then you should go over and check out Patreon. We're only a $3 pledge away from making it happen. It's time for the monster. Let's send in the big dino. Now that is our only big thing so far, so we're relying on the top of the deck to feed us more giant dinos if this dies. A Ravenous Chupacabra could really hurt. But let's see what the opponent has. They're thinking for a while. I don't think it's as simple as kill your Monstrosaur, a Plague Crafter. Oh, I'll definitely sacrifice a Druid of the Cowl instead of my Monstrosaur. And the opponent is considering a double block here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 mana available. So it's really tempting to shoot the Fight with Fire at one of these creatures and keep attacking with the Monstrosaur. However, I think I'm supposed to wait till I can kick it. Our opponent didn't have a removal spell this turn. They might not have one for the next turn or two. If all they have are other little dorks, we can build up and do a massive Fight with Fire and completely blow them out. Because if we spend the Fight with Fire right here, I feel like my whole hand becomes reliant on a Charging Monstrosaur. And I don't know if that's good enough to get the job done. I just don't have that much faith in the dino. Maybe it's the control mage in me. I have more faith in giant kick spells than 5/5 trample haste creatures for 5. But let's see how the opponent plays it. They've got the Harpooner, Playcrafter, District Guide. What else do they have? A Glowspore Shaman. Alright, more creatures. That's what we're looking for. Just more bodies. A Find Finality goes to the graveyard. Hallelujah. I would prefer that stay in the graveyard. And another little dork here, the Harpooner. So see, if I had spent my fight with fire, crashed in with Charging Monstrosaur, and traded it all off, then my opponent would play 2 more creatures and I would have nothing, I tell you. Nothing. Now I'm 1 mana away. 1 turn away, perhaps, of decimating everything with Fight with Fire. But will we make it? Our opponent's touching my creatures. That makes me a little nervous. But they're not attacking and they're saying go. Alright. They're leaving mana up. That makes me very nervous, but I do think that this is the play we have to make. Pick our targets. Submit. We want to do 1 to the Shaman, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and how much to you? What adds up to 10? It's 3. Okay, I'm kind of surprised that it lets me click. Oh, I see, the submit button unlights up. All right. Get him. Pow! But do they have a kill spell? Oh, brutal. A necrotic wound killing the Monstrosaur. And now it's back to even. Our opponent can sack Memorial Folly and get something back. I don't know what you want. None of those are very high impact. I would probably save my Memorial to Folly. But opponent's looking at doing it anyway. Let's see what they get. I mean, if it's a Playcrafter, I would just discard a Druid. If it's a Glowspore Shaman, I guess that just gets back Memorial to Folly, so that's kind of free, but you do lose your draw step the next turn. So you would have drawn something else that could have been more powerful. Instead, you draw the Memorial. Oh, Molder Hulk. That explains it. Now, using Memorial Folly to get back Molder Hulk, they can do awesome things. But they don't even do that. They use Golgari Finebroker to do the job. Alright, we're in a lot of trouble. We're going to need big monsters and Banefire. Instead, we're drawing land. The Flood is brutal. The Fight with Fire was the big ta-da, and it didn't get the job done. This deck does use a lot of uncommons, but if you have a good amount of uncommon wildcards, it isn't hard to build. I think it's a bit too many. It's the kind of thing where if you put in like $50, you might have enough uncommons to build a deck like this pretty easily. Unfortunately, on free-to-play, uncommon wildcards are still just as rough to get your hands on. Aggressive Mammoth, well, that'll get in the way. But our opponent can use Memorial to Folly to get back Chupacabra and kill it, which is pretty obnoxious. They drew another Golgari Finebroker. Well, I'm out of spells to play. I'm going to go to another game. Try to be mindful of people's time here. Just trying to check off the quests. That's all that matters. The more time I spend flooded watching my opponent do fun, recursive things, the less good times I get to have. Fun, zero-sum game. Philosophy of zero-sum fun. Much better hand. Much less likely to ramp into nowhere, but we are missing our ramp spells, so we have to actually draw them. So, no elves. Specifically, we lack elves right now. Our opponent doesn't have this problem. So do I Banefire a Llanowar Elf? I don't think so. I think Banefire is my finisher, and I've got to save up to play it. I think we definitely focus on that. Our opponent getting a little bit of tempo here. Our plan against green-black is to go over the top and cast big, huge, awesome things, especially burn spells, fight with fire, and such. However, didn't work out last game because we drew too many lands. This game, the problem is going to be finding enough lands to do what we need to do. I actually think our green-black match should be okay, but obviously, if their deck is significantly more powerful, we're going to have issues no matter what. I've got to bin you. I've got to draw land. There's another land. So, found a land. Send my Rejuvenator at you. Every little point might count. And now we're where we need to draw more lands and ramp spells. And since it's most of our deck, I feel good, just not great. District Guide. Yeah, we saw you before. So our opponent's playing all the little value dorks without a payoff just yet. Are you ready for a Chupacabra? I'm trying to think if there's going to be another use for this Jadelight Ranger, but trading with the opponent is usually bad because they use Fine Finality and they just get it all back. But let's launch the Mammoth, because if they lack a Chupacabra, we want to hit them with it as soon as possible. Like Zoic Scoob. They had a Chupa. Alright, another land. 7 mana. And now we've got a Goreclaw, another thing very likely to die. It can reduce the cost of our bigger creatures if we draw them or have them. And when we attack each creature we control, a power 4 greater gets +1/+1 and trample. That's annoying. But I still think we're just sitting pretty, waiting for more land and ramp spells to burn the opponent to the ground. No lack of bodies on their side either. Where's my Carnage Tyrant? Oh, they don't want to attack yet. They want to find another removal spell. Well, this is a good draw. We can pump that into a 6/7. Jadelight. Just about so many draws in our deck will get us to the mana that we need here. And the opponent still not wants to attack with their Tyrant. Alright. Kick it. 10 points upstairs. That's the only target I'm picking. Just you. Bang! Your move. Let's see if they have a trick to gain some life here. Or pull off a lethal attack. Sounds crazy. How about another one? Just you. You might ask why we saved the Banefire if we had 2 Fight with Fires. Because if our opponent had a Vraska's Contempt or something to gain even a little bit of life afterwards, we still need to reach out and shoot them one more time. So I think it's worth saving the Banefire there, just to make sure the opponent dies. The prime directive. No, that's Star Trek. The prime objective. Life total reduced to 0. Timber Gorge, Branchies, Rejuvenation. It's a little clunky because of the tap lands, but I think it's worth giving a try. Elves everywhere. We'll play the Timber Gorge tap because the Rootbound Crag might be able to enter untapped if we draw a land in the future. Our opponent's on the Elf into Elf plan. Oh, you don't want to attack with that, do you? Well, I think my elves are more valuable than theirs, but you never know. Seems like they're missing land. Maybe that was a missed opportunity. But for me, I'm ramping hard. I'm not stopping. 2 more lands with the Circuitous Route. It uses all of our mana, so I think that's the place for the play. Oh my. So I'm a little worried because my biggest thing right now is a Monstrosaur, and my opponents are likely to have much bigger things, but we'll see. It's time for our Monstrosaur to get some damage in. Well, let's lead with a Branchwalker and see what our top card is. Library. I don't like revealing that to the opponent. Now they can play in a certain way, but I know exactly what I want to do with the Banefire. I want to kill them with it. Down to 15. Alright, this is it. They need a big creature. Shouldn't have a problem with that. They've got so much mana. They move to attacks and say go. Smells like tricks. Do you smell a trick? I smell a trick. So, what do you do when you smell tricks? You refuse to walk right into them, typically. In this case, I don't know if I should refuse to walk into it, that is. However, part of me says if I send just the Branchwalker, well, my opponent can double block it. I trade with the Druid or the Cowl. Nothing really happens. Yeah, I think I should just walk into the trick if they have it. Alright. No trick. And I guess that's why sometimes you call bluffs. Another land, please. They enter the battlefield anyway, so I'm going to grab the Timber Gorge here. And say go. We have Banefire for 8 ready to go, and our opponent is at 10. What on earth were they doing last turn where they did not play anything? So were they just trying to bluff me out of attacking? It's possible. They also have a habit of tapping their elves for mana when they wish to attack with them. I think you're going to want that toughness, though. If you take any trample damage from the Monstrosaurs, the Banefire is really lethal. Yep, go get him. We're sending the Rejuvenator as well. Yes, the opponent has a free-ish block with the Brontodon, but then they're dead to the Monstrosaurs. And that looks like the way it's going to end. And still plenty of red and green spells to go. Let's go get some more. All right. On the play, it looks like a pretty slow hand, but it definitely ramps up. The question is going to be, can we draw our big creatures? We don't have much of a payoff aside from possibly kicking a fight with fire if given enough time, which is very scary. Another land off the top. Guildgate into Steam Vents. I bet we're going to fight a lot of Crackling Drakes, which means Fight with Fire will probably have to be cast early to keep us from dying. Let's go for a Rejuvenator. I'm not sure how this deck fares. Obviously the Banefires can't be countered, and maybe that's our trump. But I feel like the large creatures trade off with Drakes. Niv Mizzet is probably a problem. In fact, all their creatures are flying and obnoxious. So I'm not sure how we win this fight. I'm going to go for a Circuitous Route this time to get more lands out of the deck, and then hopefully my Explorer creatures will draw me into big monsters, especially Carnage Tyrant. I think Carnage Tyrant is how we win the fight, but we only have one of them. So we need to increase our odds of drawing it. So first we will ramp, then we will explore. When you explore after you ramp, you have more odds of seeing cards that are not lands than if you did it the other way around, because you are pulling lands out of the deck. Our opponent does not counter the root, they instead choose to opt. We have 7 lands going on 8 in play. They will have 4. And is it already Drake time? No, it is not. Another fight with fire. That is a clean 20 if our opponent allows it to happen. Let's start the turn by attacking with the Rejuvenator. Let's follow up with a Branchwalker. See if the opponent wishes to counter this Branchwalker. A Banefire can stay on top of the library. And because of that, I'm going to save the Jadelight Ranger, because I would just be keeping the Banefire on top of the library. I would not be putting it in the graveyard. And I want my Jadelight Ranger to find me a few more lands so that I can kick this fight with fire. Also, I have a feeling my opponent might counter the Jadelight Ranger since they didn't counter the Merfolk Branchwalker. But now they know about the Banefire. It may make them feel like they're under pressure to protect their life total. So we might see some removal now on the creatures. Alright, we'll try for the Jadelight Ranger and see if the opponent wants to counter this. No, they do not. We do draw 2 lands off the top, so that worked out very well. And now, if our opponent taps out, we can fight with fire them. Alright. And if they don't tap out, we'll beat them up with our tiny creatures. Charging Monstrosaur. Well... Let's test them. Make them have counters for the rest of the game is the plan, while getting their life total reduced with the creatures already on the board. The sabotaging is sinister, but they keep the card on top, which tells me it's another counter spell or a way to sweep up these creatures, one or the other. The search for his Ghalta now has 4 cards in the graveyard. The card they kept on top better be a good one, because it would have helped them flip his Ghalta. And they go for Niv. That's a card. But it is going to let us kick the fight with fire, and then we have a lethal Banefire the next turn. So... if we split it 5 and 5, we can still Banefire for 9 next turn, which they cannot counter, and my opponent still dies, and we don't give them a turn with Niv Mizzet, which is probably a good idea. Life gain is really hard to do with Izzet, and it's one of the reasons I don't like the color combination very, very much. Yep, they can shoot down the Ranger, but they know about that Banefire. Sure, we'll see. We might see a concession, I don't know. Not sure what they can even do about it. There's no more commit to memory in the format. I can't think of a card that returns a spell to your hand or your deck. So it does have to be life gain, and red-blue just doesn't have any. And yeah, there's the concession. Power of the Banefire. Alright, there's a pack unlocked, and we're almost there. We have 4 more red or green spells to cast. We've got a hipster. Time to battle some hipsters. All ramp, no payoff, but hopefully Adventurous Impulse can find a big creature and Merfolk Branchwalker can help with that regard. So it's still a keepable hand. One of the questions is whether or not to impulse right away, but you may as well. And there's some Monstrosaurs. The only problem there is now the opponent sees the Monstrosaur coming. They can play around it. Looks like an island and a Mistcloaked Herald. So perhaps another budget blue player. Let's play our Druid of the Cowl so we can ramp. Getting ahead of the budget blue deck on mana is often a good way to switch the tempo advantage that they have, to flip it. And they're going to say go. So this smells like an Essence Scatter. I'm going to play an Elvish Rejuvenator. We'll see if they wish to Essence Scatter that. Finding the Timber Gorge. And now we'll play another Llanowar Elf. This puts them in a random order, which is a little, but I guess it reduces the decisions you have to make and is digital friendly, although not as paper friendly. So now we can be certain the opponent is holding up counter magic to stop our Charging Monstrosaur. So let's play some things let's play some things that are very likely to resolve because of that. I think this Branchwalker will resolve because our opponent knows they have to keep mana available for the Monstrosaur. It is another elf. We can graveyard that. I don't need more of those. Let's go to combat. We might run into a Merfolk Trickster, but I'm willing to take the chance. And I'm not going to play my Charging Monstrosaur into a counterspell, although if the opponent would like to spend one on this Druid of the Cowl, they are welcome to. We have ramped very hard. There is plenty of ramp that has happened. Now a Curious Obsession. I can probably deduce my opponent just drew that, or they were sitting on the Curious Obsession last turn and used and they have Wizard's Retort in their hand, not Essence Scatter. And since, well, I could play the Monstrosaur here, or I could keep holding it and make my opponent tap mana to answer the board. I actually think that making them hold up mana is the right play, because we will outrace them, Curious Obsession and all, at this pace. We will outrace them. Now they have all the cards in the hand that they could possibly want, so we have to make sure that we can win the game on the board. Trying to draw out their counterspell for a future spell to resolve is just not too likely, as they're likely to have a ton of counterspells handy. But they are constrained on their mana. That's where we can take good advantage of them. They discard a chart, a course. Alright, I'm going to keep attacking. Down to 4. We're going to make them spend their mana someday. They can counter this if they want to. It appears they don't want to. And I think you saw here how ramp can take away the tempo from your opponent in the blue matchup, because we just get so much more mana sources and cards on the board than them, that if they want to sit back and use their counter spells, we can almost completely ignore them. Alright, so this is the part where we want to play a Monstrosaur, get it countered by the Essence Scatter or the Wizard's Retort that I'm sure has been sitting there the whole time. There's the Essence Scatter. And now we coup de grace Monstrosaur number 2. It has trample, so chump blocking won't work, and even if they could, they'd be dead to the other 2 attackers, and that's your game, folks. Alright, claim that prize, and now we've done our quest. With the quest done, I'll look to some competitive gameplay or a constructed event and enter with our blue-black. It's hard to say which one's more competitive, the blue-black or the mono-blue, but I'll go with the blue-black since I'm enjoying it more. And let's see how we do. I probably won't finish this event today, but we might just come back and finish it on Friday. Work a little bit on the event, and then work on our quests. That's how you keep building up cards and building up your collection on the Young CGB account. That's a lot of lands that enter the battlefield tapped. I like my hand, but I hate these lands. Still, I don't think I can afford to mulligan it. This is what we're signed up for until we have all of our drowned catacombs and watery graves. This is just the way it goes. Our opponent tapped Sacred Foundry. They have a choice in the matter. So rude. Looks like a proper Jeskai control. Let's make them have an answer for our Bloodfast on turn 2. This can be a very good card if we're able to resolve it here. They have to have Negate or Syncopate. Maybe a Spell Pierce. Instead they have an Opt. That's a really good thing for us. The Bloodfast can help us make our land drops and ensure we have answers for all of their annoying cards. And it's not easy for them to remove. Usually Ixalan's Binding or Teferi are what they have to use. We could try a Disinformation campaign here. Because the Bloodfast resolved, I believe in the campaign. We could play a land as well. This would play around a card like Syncopate, which they may have drawn in the last draw step. And I think it's better safe than sorry, even though I hate the tap land equity thing. I just think it's better to be safe here. Because we could play a land that enters the battlefield tapped and have more mana in the future instead. Our opponent with a Revitalize, so they came for the red matchup, but probably not for this matchup. They might struggle against the Disinformation campaign Argyl's Bloodfast control deck. Important turn. Will they continue to make their lands? They will, and they'll even pay life to do it. What is their play? It is a search for Ghalta. So now they have a value engine as well. I can dispersal it, return it to their hand, make them discard a card. Perhaps that's a play we make on the end step. Search for Ghalta can take over a game, so it's something we don't want to let them flip. And we don't have a lot of good solutions to the card itself. They haven't had a counter spell yet. Though they paid life to leave 2 mana open last turn, and they're tapping 5. So they have Teferi, the hero of Dominaria. Seems like a good card to use a Sinister Sabotage on, but I could also use Vraska's Contempt on it. And that would let me... Well, we definitely don't want to let our opponent untap with this card. So I think what I'll do is counter it and use Sinister Sabotage. First, though, I'm going to draw a card. A Thought Erasure is very good. They're on 5 cards. Another Disinformation campaign is good. It is good. I'm just worried about the Discovery Dispersal. And when to cast it against an Azcanta. So the opponent can't flip Azcanta yet, so we have one more try here. I'll play this land tapped and we'll plan to do the Discovery Dispersal. And then untap and Thought Erase Azcanta. And even if our opponent plays Teferi here, I probably have to go for that, even as risky as it can be. Alright, looks like they're going to pass the turn. So let's cast Dispersal. Each opponent returns a non-land permanent they control with the highest casting cost among permanents they control to owner's hand, then discards. They only have 1 permanent. So they have to return the Search for Ghalta to their hand. They might be debating whether or not to counter this. It's a tough choice because it's a very low mana investment that you're probably thinking I can replay it for 2 mana, no problem. So now what I need is for the Thought Erasure to resolve. So if my opponent has a counterspell, I want to see if I can get them to use it on this Disinformation campaign. Oftentimes people hate this card enough to counter it, even when it may not be the best play. All right, now we go for the Thought Erasure and hope for the best. Did our opponent protect their Search for Ghalta with a counterspell? Mana is being tapped. Okay, expansion will let them copy the erasure and target us, which means they can take the Contempt or the campaign, but that doesn't protect their Search for Ghalta. And they use the Vraska's Contempt, implying that they might have another Teferi. Let's find out. They do. They do. So, do we take away the Teferi or the Search for Ghalta? Especially when they have a Disdainful Stroke as well. It's a really tough choice. Teferi I can remove with Vraska's Contempt, but Search for Ghalta I can't remove. And I'm going to choose the Teferi. I'm very curious what I should be doing, but I'm going to choose Teferi. Dream Eater can bounce the Ghalta, as long as we can get rid of the Disdainful Stroke somehow. So let's hope we can do that. And let's pass turn. I'm sure our opponent will replay his Ghalta. I don't have the mana to quite get around. Oh, they're going to play the Insight and hope to draw land. Well, let's hope they brick. If they don't draw land here, the Ghalta is still in their hand and we have a chance. They have chosen concession. I guess, so they made a play that I would call a little greedy. Not unreasonable, but a little greedy. Trying to draw the land and then cast the Ghalta in the same turn. And it didn't work out for them, and that seems like it was enough to tilt them into concession. Well, we've got an early removal spell, a campaign, and a Doom Whisperer. 4 lands which cover our colors and aren't entering the battlefield tapped. So I can keep this hand, although that's enough land for now. I'd like the land to slow down. I'd like to draw something like a counterspell now, please. Secret Squire is immune to fungal infection, unfortunately. But the Llanowar Elves aren't, should they keep those, and they do. Alright, Essence Scatter off the top. Click, click, click. We might have to take a beating from the Secret Squire for a little while. Our opponent goes for the Llanowar Elf. We'll let that resolve. Do they have another land? Yes, they do, and they pay 2 life to play a Branchwalker. So, I could let my opponent have the Elf and more mana, or I could let my opponent have the Branchwalker. I think I'll let the Branchwalker resolve. Well, no. I can spend the Essence Scatter now and the Fungal Infection later. The thing is, I like holding Essence Scatter against these decks for things like Thousand Eyes, although that's not played as much, but Vine Broker and Chupacabra are. But I think in this case we just need to use it now. And get the campaign going. There's our tap lands. I knew they were lurking somewhere. Opponent with a lot of lands, and yet they kept the Llanowar Elves. I'm still a little surprised. I'm tapped out, so their sequencing doesn't really matter here, but I guess if they want to practice that way, it's not a big deal. And they do have a Fine Broker, which is kind of a mini tilt for me. They've revealed themselves to be a bit short on mana. I wonder if that means I should Fungal Infect the Elf, cast down the Fine Broker, play a tap land, and then Doom Whisper next turn. It saves Vraska's Contempt for a Planeswalker, which are always of big concern in these matchups. So we'll take you out of there and pass the turn. Wipe you out, shorten our clock a little. No blocks. And a Jadelight Ranger has been waiting. Just waiting. Alright. Binning Assassin's Trophy. Binning Vivian Reed. They are slowed on mana. That is very good for us. So, here's the Doom Whisperer. Fourth land off the top. Does that mean they have a Chupacabra? They have a Vraska's Contempt. We need to make sure that our next card is something good. Disdainful Stroke. Does that get us back in this game? If we exile the Ranger, Fungal Infect the Branchwalker, Disdainful Stroke might be crucial, so yeah, I'll keep it. There's often a lot of cards that it can hit in green-black, crucial Planeswalkers and such. I think it's best to save my life total with this little insect. They're not going to do much else. Hit him. Okay, an Essence Scatter as well is pretty good. And pass the turn. Gonna have a few key turns coming up here. We're gonna take quite a bump on this one because our opponent with good sequencing. They didn't run the Branchwalker out first, and we're down to 4. Branchwalker can resolve, but with the trigger on the stack, before it explores, we'll Fungal Infect it to make sure that if it would grow into a 3/2, it dies first. Hits a land. What's your last card? Is it a creature? A cheap little explore creature? It looks like it might be a find, which would be absolutely perfect for the situation for them. They're looking in the graveyard, so I'm thinking it's a find. Nasty. Just nasty. Well, we drew another Essence Scatter, and we have enough to Contempt and Scatter, so feeling okay. That Seeker Squire, though, is going to beat me to death pretty quickly. It's all going to be about the next couple cards. Interesting. Did they draw the land? Or are they hoping to hit the land? Well, I think I'm in a corner where I do have to Essence Scatter this and hope they did not draw the land. Okay. This is going to be a close one. I still have to draw something to match up with this Squire. So many Explore creatures. There's the land. All right, top deck war. I lose round 1. And I lose round 2. So, nasty spot with 3 lands in a row to close that game. Happens to everyone. Not too upset. I think I played my way into a spot where I could have won, but just wasn't able to get there. Ritual of Soot is probably the best thing going for the hand. I think I can keep it because of that, because it's going to be a slow start. It's going to hit at least its first 3 land drops, and it's got 2 good finishers. But without a way to catch up, this hand could get run over. The Ritual of Soot might be able to save me. Everybody on Golgari today, I guess. Just another day in the arena. How many Golgari decks have we played? Is this 4? 5? I lose track. Hey, this might be the Sapperling version, which is better for Ritual of Soot, that's for sure. Drawing the second Doom Whisperer is pretty ridiculous. Pretty unfortunate. You always want a good variety and a nice curve in your hand. Drawing identical cards is usually not great, even when they are mythics, unless it's a card like History of Benalia. Alright, well, we drew a blue source. I think I'd better just wipe this out before it gets too crazy. Because those Slime Put the Stowaway triggers can add up. I might have fired it too soon, but I don't think it's right to sit there and do nothing. I think that it would be pretty greedy. And there's the Spore Swarm. The tap land punishing us yet again for being poor. For the free-to-plays. Now, is there a way here to pump these? Okay. Whether or not to let my opponent have 6 mana. I can't think of what they do with it except for the Immortal Sun, which is freaking terrifying. So, just in case, I'm going to infect something with a fungal right now. I was hoping to get them in combat and get 2 of their tokens, but I think I'll just have to settle. Oh boy. So now I'm confident that the play here is going to be to Dream Eater this Song of Freyalise and put it off. If we do it on end step though, we can counter it on the way back down. So, what are the plays? Oh my, so many creatures. I'm going to have to surveil to another Ritual Soot, I can tell. Gonna need more of that. Anybody want to attack me? Oh, good. So with my opponent tapped down, I can go for this now. I don't have to wait till the end step. If they had left any mana up to replay the song, I wouldn't want to make this play. Oh my. Oh my. So there aren't any lands here. That's the biggest concern. Individual removal usually isn't very good for this matchup. But if we Ritual and then campaign with Sabotage up and then have another Dream Eater, that seems great. Well, I was gonna say, now that I have Ritual, this doesn't matter as much, but I could definitely suck out more Saprolings possibly into the Ritual. Yeah, I shouldn't have bounced the Song if I was going to blow the Ritual. I should have kept the Disinformation campaign as well if I was going to counter the Ritual. So my play there was a little disjointed. Well, very disjointed. Let's not sugarcoat it. I didn't have one plan. I had two plans, and I executed both poorly. But let's go for the Ritual and just get this board cleaned up now, rather than play Doom Whisperer or hope our opponent doesn't draw a Tender Shoot Dryad that can wreck us. And let's start clocking them. Let's see if we can make up for the bit of a blunder. Vraska's Contempt. Okay. Opponent packing some universal removal in their Saproling deck. I made a video about a Saproling deck like that on the other for the full-blown account, and I gotta say, I wasn't disappointed. Let's get the campaign rolling, since we can also hold up Sabotage for whatever would make the next tokens. And the Song gets discarded because there's nothing to sing for, or sing with, however you want to put it. No creatures on the battlefield to go with the Song. Opponent's checking out our graveyard, possibly deciding whether or not to throw another creature into the fire here. And here's the Tender Shoot Dryad Hail Mary. And I think I just want lands. I don't want to not hit lands for a while. I don't want to miss my lands, is what I'm saying. So we get that last card. It would only leave us 4 mana available, but with a Dream Eater, we can bounce something and then campaign it if it's something we need to get rid of. And we draw a Contempt. Card off the top. What does it do? You have one option. Alright. It makes a whole bunch of creatures. I'll hold on to the Contempt. It's not that dangerous yet. Yeah, let's get back to dream eating. Just eating, nomming on dreams. Chomp, chomp, chomp. And here's your attackers. Hiya! Well, again, I do want to keep hitting land, but I can get rid of this. And I don't know where this fits in, but possibly being able to gain life against this deck could be useful. I'll keep these cards. Let's bounce one of the tokens to remove it entirely, because anytime you remove a token from the battlefield, it ceases to exist, whether it's by exile, destruction, bouncing, whatever you wish to do. Let's go after their card. See what are they hiding? They were hiding a land. All right. I think at this point we can push to end the game, so I'm not going to be shy any longer about launching Doom Whisperers. Get them creepy animations going. Off the top, it is a Tender Shoot Dryad, wow. But not the city's blessing yet. Since I have a Contempt, I'll take the Bloodfast. Still a fine plan. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This token will give the city's blessing. Since I know I want to do this anyway, and since the city's blessing lasts whether they fall below 10 permanents or not, we'll just not let them have the blessing at this stage. It might matter later, and apparently it was enough. It was enough to push our opponent over the edge. All right, well, that's a good victory to leave on. We've got about an hour of our free-to-play account. We got our gold. Tomorrow is crafting day. We've got at least 6,000 gold ready to go. We'll probably have over 7,000 by tomorrow, and we'll have an event to continue, and at least 2 packs to open. So I hope you'll join us for the next episode. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.